So, I didn't do anything of note, really, over the weekend. Is there a reason you ask? Fine, I confess. I saw Beyonce. We'll get to the Handmaid, so that's what this video is going to be about. But, I want to tell you a brief synopsis of my weekend, okay? Saturday, first of all, one of my friends flew in Friday night. Okay, Saturday we hung out all day, me, the bestie, our friend, and then that night we went to Stray Kids, right? We saw Stray Kids in Seattle. It was a delight. I actually had a surprisingly good time considering I don't love Stray Kids music. Anyway, after that, I got on a plane at 6 a.m. on Sunday. And I flew to Newark, New Jersey, where I went to see Beyonce that night. I saw 2 arena shows in 2 nights on 2 coasts. I would like to take this moment to actually thank my employers for funding my lovely lifestyle. Anyway, the point of this video, bragging aside, is the Handmaid. I'm going to take off the hat, actually. I'm just going to say, you know what, actually, the hat feels poignant. The United States flag on the hat, it feels poignant. I'm leaving it on. Anyway, The Handmaid's Tale. The Handmaid's Tale is officially over. It ended last night. And I, for the unawares, have just been making various videos about how this season in particular is making me like a new brand of crazy. And the show's over. We have to talk about it. So I've watched episodes 9 and 10. I just finished them. And I have notes. I have notes on my phone. We're going to run through various thoughts I had throughout my viewing experience. And that's going to be this video. Also, to enhance the experience, I made a drink. This is, legally speaking, an apple teeny. It is primarily green apple liqueur. I then threw some vodka and fresh lime juice. I'd cut open a lime while making dinner. It's actually quite nice. Anyway, let's begin the things that made me crazy, okay? First thing that made me crazy was the scene where Bradley Whitford is sending his wife and stepdaughter, I guess legally, his wife and daughter to safety in episode 9. That scene, okay? For the unawares, I love Bradley Whitford. I'm, dare I say, diabolically obsessed with him in ways I can't comprehend. Like, I don't think it's that he's, like, this goated actor. He is. But it's not that I think he's, like, this goated actor that, like, deserves the praise. It's just, I have a soft spot in my heart for him. And he has been making this show bearable this whole season. And just that scene where, like, you can see just how much he cares about this child and how much he loves this child. Because he tried to have kids for so long with his first wife and he never could. It's just, that scene, frankly, it got me a little. Thing 2, another delight of the show for me, Aunt Lydia. Yes, my dare I say questionable opinion is that I actually really fucking love Aunt Lydia. I think she's such a fascinating character. I'm so obsessed with her. And when they were going to execute her, and she was, like, giving her, not apology, her confession, if you will. I like that term better. Her thing, where she was speaking. And she was basically like, I tried to protect my girls, and, like, fuck the men who did this to them. Like, fuck the terrible men who hurt them. I love her. I love her so much. My hot stance, since I first saw The Handmaid's Tale, has always been, Aunt Lydia does love those girls. Like, I know that is up for debate amongst the various groups, mainly on Reddit that I've seen, but, like, I know people question whether or not she actually cares about the girls and whatnot. I think she actually does. Like, I think she loves those girls so bad, and the last, like, 3 or 4 episodes really do cement that. Oh god, okay, it's time to talk about the scene after, like, not even the scene after, it's the same scene, it's the execution scene, which then becomes the riot, right? And then the Americans show up and blow shit up. For starters, we should have taken the Americans out, actually. That's where I'm going to start. We should have taken the Americans out. I think a narrative that was like, the Gilead people freed themselves is much more impactful than a narrative that involves the Americans coming in and saving them, right? Because that's what happens in the show, essentially, is the Americans come in, fire their missiles, the Marines or whatever show up, and Gilead is stopped, right? At least in Boston. That's a big part of it, is that the Americans show up. And I think it would have been a lot more impactful had that not happened. Had it been like not the Marthas, oh god, what's their names? I forgot the names of the, like, regular people. that they have for them. The like, oh god, what is, it's gonna bother me, whatever. The name, the like regular people, the people in gray, them, if they just like risen up themselves from June's speech, I'll take it. But like maybe we can still have like Mayday there, like Luke's there, not Moira, Rita's there, like that crew. They can still be there and they can still be killing people. But like the concept that the Americans coming in is what saved the day. I didn't like that. I actually really dislike that. Also, am I meant to ignore the fact that they fired, by my count, 4 missiles into a densely populated city? Because that is what they did. I understand that they probably didn't expect me to think about that in that way, but like the Americans did just like show up and fire missiles into a densely populated city, and it was framed as a good thing. Okay, enough about the riot. Let's talk about the plane scene now. That scene fucked me up. That scene fucked me up real bad. First, actually, let's start positive. Nick's reveal in the car, like when he got out of the car, like a fucking supervillain. Like it was his supervillain reveal in a Marvel movie. That made me laugh. That actually made me laugh a lot. It was one of the highlights of the last 2 episodes of the show for me because it was comical. Okay? Unfortunately, the rest of the scene made me clinically depressed because Bradley Whitford, the man that you are, the way he got on that plane and the music coming in, this like somber, haunting music when he gets on that plane and knows he's gonna die. He knows he's not getting off that plane. He knows that plane is gonna blow up. And he basically is like, I gotta do, like, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm doing it for the good of humanity. Okay. Bradley Whitford did get me through a surprising amount of the back half of the show. I love that man so bad. But, like, I knew he was gonna die before watching this episode. I said that in my last video, that I knew one thing that was gonna happen that I refused to believe was true. The one thing was that Bradley Whitford died, and I refused to believe it because I didn't want to believe it. I get it. Like, narratively, it is a good end to his character's arc. I don't like it. Anyway, those are my thoughts on episode 9. Let's talk the finale. Let's talk the finale of the entire series. My first thing that I want to talk about is Hannah. Okay? First and foremost, I don't care about Hannah. Is that mean to say? Is it mean to say that, like, I don't care about Hannah? Hannah hasn't been a real character in this show since, like, season 2. I think we've seen one scene from her in, like, the last 4 seasons of this show. And it's just, I don't care. That's a lie. We've seen more than one. But we've seen, like, 3 scenes of her. And I don't care about her. She's not a character that I know. Like, in season 1 and season 2, when, like, Hannah was still fresh in our minds as the viewers, it was much more compelling to be like, Hannah is the reason for June. Like, even through season 3, when it's like, Hannah is the reason June is doing all this. That made sense. We have barely seen her for the last 3 seasons, which in real time has been roughly, like, 5 years. Right? I don't care about her anymore. Like, she's not been a character that I feel like June needed anymore in the story either. June's arc for wanting to take down Gilead, I'm not going to say it always made sense without Hannah, but at this point, it very much makes sense without Hannah. And I feel like the biggest proof, there are 2 big proofs I have that they don't know what the fuck to do with Hannah. One is that they recast her in that flashback. That flashback was fucking useless, for starters. But they recast her. I literally did a double take. I was like, I know that's meant to be Hannah. Who is that child? It was only made worse when they showed, like, the clips from the aquarium that they'd filmed when, like, the actress was younger. And I'm like, that's Hannah. I know that to be Hannah. But the recasting was bad. And then also, she doesn't say Hannah in the end. I've always said, ever since I first saw The Handmaid's Tale, because I watched the first 3 seasons last year, and when I watched those seasons, I said the show should have ended in season 3 when she got Hannah on that plane. If they wanted to stretch it out, fine. I still think Hannah should have essentially left the narrative years ago, both in the canon of the show and, more importantly, in the canon of reality. Hannah should not have been a relevant plot point past, like, season 3, because we don't know her anymore. Like, Hannah, for starters, has spent much of her life in Gilead. The narrative has established Hannah doesn't fucking know June, really. Like, she does not know that woman. That woman is a stranger to her, and more importantly, that woman is scary to her. She has a loving family. Granted, that family's fucked up. The Mackenzies are a fucked up family unit, presumably. But, like, the society they live in is deeply fucked. But at the end of the day, it doesn't even really grapple with the question of, is June saving Hannah a good thing? And I think that's part of why they didn't want that in the narrative. They didn't take the time to have June save her in the finale, because I think that there's a lot to dissect with that, and I don't think the show's ready or willing to do that, and it's over now, so they never will be. My next thing is actually not something that made me crazy. It's not something that I have, like, a lot to say about. I just think the baby that is baby Noah is really fucking cute. That's all it was a really cute baby. I've always been, like, personally of the opinion, I don't love babies in media as a concept. Like, just the mere fact that, like, it's obviously the parents pushing the child to do this because it's an infant. They can't want this. That just has always rubbed me the wrong way personally. But, like, I will not deny that baby was really fucking cute. Every scene it was in was a delight to me, because that baby was really fucking. Next, let's talk about Emily. Now, I actually don't think I would have ever shared this, now that I think about it on this channel. Emily, one of my favorite characters on the show. If you want to know the episodes that I think are the best in the show, and certainly the ones that emotionally devastated me the most, I can tell you what the top two are. The top two are Emily's flashback episode is one of my favorites, if not my overall favorite episode of The Handmaid's Tale, and the one where she reunites with her family in Canada is one of the most devastating things to me emotionally. Emily is one of my favorite characters. I think she's one of the most interesting characters, and I think she has the most emotional resonance. And when they brought her back, I literally shrieked with delight. I shrieked with delight. I teared up at her mere presence. It is the only tears I even remotely shed during the finale, mind you. The scene of her and June walking by the river again, I thought it was a really nice full circle moment. I cannot say that about every other full circle moment in this episode. You know what? I think I just need to read this next bullet point to you verbatim, okay? Ready? I feel like this finale is just kind of tying up loose ends for feel-good points instead of trying to tell a narrative. That was my main takeaway for every single scene beyond the Emily one. Like, the scene where she says goodbye to Serena, the scene where she and Janine, like, where Janine gets free and the baby comes back, the goodbye with her and Luke, which I will get back to. I just think so much of this episode was essentially them trying to, like, wrap up everyone's character arc in, like, a neat little pretty bow. I didn't like that. We'll come back to it. Okay, now let's talk about Holly for just a sec, okay? Not the baby, mind you. I refuse to address her by that name. I will be dead naming Holly as Nicole. I was actually talking to one of my coworkers about it today because I found out she's also been watching The Handmaid's Tale. And I was like, listen, it drives me crazy because it was a good, impactful moment that she called the baby Nicole. And the work bestie, for the record, agreed with me. She agreed with me. She said, you're right. And we were talking about it because it drives me crazy. That's not the point. That's not the point of this bullet point. The point of this bullet point is when Holly was when June was like, you need to stay with Grandma a little bit longer because I need to finish what I'm doing. And Holly, the adult, was like, no, don't do that. I need to protect you. And I'm like, pause. Let's all take 5 seconds and pause for a minute. For starters, Holly, you have not been in this show. Your daughter's in her 40s. You have not been involved in keeping her safe. Potentially ever. It was pretty clear that she was a pretty neglectful mom when June was a kid, or at least, like, in her early 20s. So, like, do not now show up and be like, I need to keep you safe. Like, for starters, your daughter's been involved in what could pretty easily be considered a terrorist group. I think saying that now is the moment where you need to keep her safe, we crossed that line. We crossed the line of her being safe a very long time ago. Now, let's talk about Luke and June. I've been of the opinion, I think for most of the show, and certainly for the past, like, 3 seasons, June does not love that man. June does not care about that man. Maybe not care. June does not love that man. And I think the show has just been endlessly trying to convince me that she does, and she doesn't. And when they have their last scene together, there's this moment where they almost seem like they're going to have this real discussion about how Gilead altered the very state of their relationship, which, again, could have been interesting. And then they just kind of don't. They just don't get into it. It's just like, June just makes a joke like, was there even a before? And then we just go about our days, and I'm like, we could have talked about it. Because, like, it would have been an interesting conversation to have, like, the ways that Gilead formatively changed June to the point that she does not love that man anymore. At least not in the ways that she used to. And we don't address it whatsoever. And I hate that because it's such a wasted... Like, there are so few characters we've actually followed throughout the entire show, if you think about it, right? Like, the big ones, there's June, Luke, Janine, Lydia, and Serena. And, like, that's it for the characters we've really paid attention to throughout this show. That's it. And Luke is so important to June's story, and I think the ways that she loves him are interesting, and the way she doesn't love him are interesting, and I wanted that explored more, and they're never going to. The next point I want to, again, just read verbatim to you, okay? All this shit out of nowhere about her writing a book. Girl, shut the fuck up. Listen, I've read the original Handmaid's Tale. I don't think I actually ever said that in one of these videos. I've read the book. Like, I read the book in college. And I understand that the whole point is that, like, this is June's recordings, technically. I think they're, like, tape recordings in the book. Don't quote me on that. There's some form of, like, her narrative. Like, she wrote it or she recorded it or whatever. They're her. So, like, the concept of it being her memoir, in a sense, is obvious. Like, I've picked up on that. I could have told you that was coming in some way. I wasn't, like, overly shocked when in the last scene she starts a recording by repeating the opening lines of the book. I mean, of the show. So, like, I get that. However, out of nowhere, they didn't even address... Like, we could have been sprinkling it in at least through season 6. It comes up twice in the finale, and then and both times she's like, no, I don't want to do that. And then all of a sudden she's like, you know what? Maybe I will do that. And then she does. Here's my thing. Here's what I wanted, actually. I think this would have been a really interesting ending if instead of it being June, it was Janine. Because Janine's another one of the characters that we've really been looking at this entire show. Dare I say, after June and Serena, Janine's, like, the third main character at this point. And I think it would have been really interesting if it was her chronicling June's story. Like, that's... I think that ending actually would have made me go, like, a little feral. Anyway, last bullet point. We've run our final bullet point. I say this as, dare I say, #1 Serena Joy supporter. I love Serena Joy. I love Serena Joy so bad. She's like Aunt Lydia. I shouldn't love her, and yet I do. I think her entire arc should have ended when she got on that bus. I don't dislike the scene of her sitting with Noah and being like, you're all I need, you're all I have, you're all I've ever wanted, I'm going to take care of you, I'm going to protect you. I get that. I liked that. We should have switched the order. She could have had that exact same moment before she got on that bus. I think it would have been so much better had the last thing we see from Serena be June forgiving her. Anyway, closing thoughts on The Handmaid's Tale. For the record, I did watch this show in, dare I say, a less than advisable way. If you have not watched my other videos about The Handmaid's Tale, I got through the first 5 seasons of this show in the span of, like, 7 weeks or something like that. I powered through the first 5 seasons of the show because I knew season 6 was going to be the last one, and I wanted to finish the show. So I watched it very quickly. I would not recommend that, for starters. Here's what I would recommend, and I've said this before, but I'm gonna repeat it. You should watch the first 3 seasons of The Handmaid's Tale and assume June dies in the woods. That is true. Like, the first 3 seasons of The Handmaid's Tale are so good. The first 3 seasons of The Handmaid's Tale are some of the best television I've watched, like, as an adult with a brain. They're phenomenal. They're poignant in ways that both feel like they made sense in 1985, made sense in 2017, and make sense today in 2025. The show, like, I've seen the tweets where it's like, the show took so long to air that it became reality, and it kind of did. And that is what bit The Handmaid's Tale in the ass, is that it took forever to air, and it went on for way too long. Like, there are shows where I think they could have tightened it up and had it be, like, 3-4 seasons. Most shows, mind you, I think needed to stop after, like, 4-ish seasons. The only exceptions I can really think of off the top of my head where, like, I really loved, like, the last 2 seasons and the first 2 seasons are, like, Sopranos, Better Call Saul. My instinct is to say Succession, but Succession was 4 seasons. So, like, my point is, these shows that go on forever go on for too damn long. And that was The Handmaid's Tale. The Handmaid's Tale would have been an excellent 3 to 4 season show. Even if it took them like 5 or 6 years to make it, a 3 to 4 season show of The Handmaid's Tale would have been perfect. Not season 4. Not the season 4 we got, mind you. Like, the first 3 seasons, one last season to wrap it up, would have been perfect. What we got is interesting. How do I want to put this? The Handmaid's Tale has a lot to say, and it does a bad job of saying a lot of it. One thing that I kept thinking about when I was watching the show, and I was like, how are they going to end it? And for the record, I can find the text from the bestie if I need to prove it. Back in like early April, I texted the bestie by being like, it's going to end with the US taking over again and everything's sunshine and rainbows. And I was essentially right. Like, on a small scale, they retook Boston, and they're like, everything is good now. All is great. And I think 2 things. One, I think The Handmaid's Tale is a show that would have really benefited from a downer ending. I think having a show like The Handmaid's Tale end on, like, this positive note undervalues everything that came before it. And also, I think having the US take back over and everything is all good and well really downplays the fact that so much of the society hates women, and the show makes no effort to engage with that. The show makes no effort to engage with the inherent misogyny of a culture that leads to Gilead, right? It doesn't even try. It deals with the misogyny within Gilead, but the concept of the leading up to that is completely ignored by the show. The show has I stand by it, the show has a lot to say, and it doesn't really want to have anything to say at the same time. The show the show could say so many things, and it doesn't really engage with its own narrative in the way I would have liked. I feel like that's my core gripe, specifically with the back half of The Handmaid's Tale, is it seems unwilling to engage with the narrative they've constructed. My final thing, I said this before, would I recommend The Handmaid's Tale? No. I wouldn't recommend you watch the entire show. Again, I'd recommend you watch the first 3 seasons. They're excellent. The last 3 seasons of the show were such a slog to get through emotionally that, dare I say, the first 3 seasons feel both better and worse in my mind knowing where the show goes. I feel like that made absolutely no sense, and yet I stand by every word. I feel like my thesis statement is that The Handmaid's Tale is a show that was unwilling to engage with the narrative it built. That's my thesis statement. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. That's all I got. I hope you liked this. If you did, like and subscribe. Or don't. I will truly be fine either way. In the description, I'll put my other Handmaid's Tale videos. I've made 3 of them. I do want to make a character ranking. I actually really do. I feel like it's more fun for me when I do it like season by season. But like, I made it for a lot of other shows. Not a lot, but I made it for some other shows that I watched. I do want to make it for The Handmaid's Tale. So that might happen in the near future. I want to do it while it's fresh. Other than that, yeah, that's all I got. Comment whatever you want. And yeah, thank you again for watching. Bye!